What's up, guys? Welcome to another Tuesday, another episode of Tradesmen Talks, where we talk about people looking to grow their business, start a business within the home services or specialty trades fields. I'm Steven, and this is
Wilson. Heyo.
You may have heard that on the intro already, but welcome. Hope you guys had a good week so far. How's your week going, Wilson?
So good in so many ways. We got a destroyed toilet flange ripped out and re-leveled. That was awesome. If you ever worked with a rotted toilet flange, it's gross. It's gross.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that was good. At the shop in Austin, our guy Logan, it's we still got plenty of week to go, but closed 3 deals already. So nice. $9,000 in business collected. So about $18,000 in new business. Pretty excited
Sweet.
about that. We've got 2 guys, both working jobs completely on their own now. And yeah, man, it feels good. It's a lot of progress this is month 7 and just crushing it. And we had a really strong start, but we're finally getting to the point of stability. Like it's consistent. And that's been, it's been amazing to see. It's always fun watching people grow into the role because it's hard. It's freaking hard. Running a business, there's a lot that you have to wear. There's a lot of hats. There's a lot of things pulling for your attention. Plus that's just in the business. It's not like just because you start a business, your life goes away. So just really proud of him and some of the growth he's had. And yeah, man.
Yeah, he's been great at receiving feedback and taking action. It's been really fun working with him, getting updates every week during our group calls and then watching him actually get closer and closer to the goals that we talk about. It's fun to watch. And that's one of my favorite parts about doing consulting work or working with our partners is people who actually want the opportunity and are willing to help themselves. And if given a system to follow, they go after it. And surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, they get the results.
100%. I know for like me personally, even if somebody's paying me 3 times what I would normally charge, if they're not actually doing the stuff I'm telling them, it's a really frustrating experience. Like I don't want to take money if I'm not adding value. So if you're not doing the stuff I'd say, like we can just snip it and save everybody some time. Yeah. So he's great, man. He follows the process. That's like the number one thing, man. The guys that come through that are fun to work with, it's because they follow the process. It's not rocket science, but
yeah. And they're focused on the mission at hand. A lot of people can get stuck with the day-to-day reactions or the day-to-day circumstances, and that can sometimes distract them from what they're actually working towards. And they sometimes will forget the level of commitment that they had when they had originally known that this was going to be hard. This was going to be a journey. There was certainly going to be sacrifices. And it could be like that for, a year or 2 when you're building a new business. You're building a group of systems that all have to work and communicate effectively together. And you're building an organization with multiple people that rely on the performance of all these other parts of the business. So it could be a journey for the first couple of years, really building the systems. But if you're diligent and you're focused and you're willing to take responsibility over whatever happens, a lot of times that progress can happen really quickly. And it certainly has with your team in Austin. You mentioned month 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, month 7.
And you're just shy of 20,000 in sales over the last week.
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
He had a pretty good week last week. I need to check the numbers. This might be his best month. This might be his best month.
That's great. And it sounds like you're getting to a point where you're using the word stability. And that is a turning point in building a small business, especially a service business that relies on the performance of other people. When you're able to use the word stable, it's usually the start of something really good.
Yeah. Well, and the exciting part is stable, but not just stable for him, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of contractors get stuck, and we talk about this all the time. Like they get the business launched, they get to a certain level, and then it's just them working in it, grinding every single day, and it's like they never progress past that. And so they when they try and hire, it goes really poorly, and so they go, well, that's not worth it. It's too expensive. It's a waste of money and time, and they just end up stuck because creating stability for yourself as a one-man operation is one thing, but if you're a self-employed and you're your only employee, your stability is really based off you always being there. And so what you do is you keep stability, and that's nice, it's important, but you trade freedom, because as soon as you're not working, the money stops. And
right.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? For some people, that's the life and path that they want. But I think for a lot of us, and I don't, I imagine a lot of them too, originally, they wanted to create a business not just for the financial stability, but also for the ultimate goal of financial and time freedom, which is really the sexy part, right? Working every day is cool, but being able to, like you're doing right now, going on a cross-country trip and knowing that your business still is going to do 7 figures this year, that's a pretty good problem to have.
Yeah, and it came from putting in the work and believing in the systems and putting in enough energy and had enough diligence to let the system work. And yeah, so now I'm in this this van road tripping. But it's pretty wild, like getting text messages from the office, hey, I'm depositing $18,000 today. It's like, nice.
Heck yeah, you are. And we were happy about doing that in a week.
And so you get to the point where the systems start working for you, but there's a lot of obstacle to push through, and a lot of adapting, and sometimes you'll have to start over. But if you have enough faith and you have enough consistent effort, you'll hit those plateaus or those levels of stability, where certainly, if you're relying on yourself, and some people, who may lack the ability to trust people, or they have challenges around that, and so they stay by themselves and working for themselves, where their business may be stable, but it's very limited. If you can get to that same level of stability with a team, then the tide will rise, and as they say, so will all the ships. And so everyone involved can hopefully have a better opportunity, the business is making more money, and then you can then shift your involvement to where you can have more time and freedom and still maintain your income. But it's a journey, and it doesn't have to take that long either. We've had people go through our program with some previous construction experience, and they're used to putting those pieces and building the puzzle as the business is going, and they're able to do it quickly because they've done that in their previous business, and they've hit 7 figures well within the first year, and even multiple locations, and pretty cool stuff. But yeah, it's awesome to see you and your team really roll with it. And the model that you're rolling out with your team, I'm now also doing in Florida, and that's kind of how we see people being able to continue to grow while still get that work-life balance is through forming partnerships and giving a clear path for growth for everyone involved. And naturally, everyone will want to progress to the point to where you're going to need someone to manage that business. And the person right below that position oftentimes can be the person to fill in that managerial role, which can then alleviate you as the previous owner operator to becoming solely the owner and not as much as an operator. And then that kind of domino effect will be what brings value from years from then, not only to you as the original owner operator, to then the owner, to now the investor or the partner, because the people that have come through your business can eventually build their own, and you become a key consultant or partner in those operations. And it's a win for everyone involved.
Yep. It's a journey though. And I think, a lot of people,
sometimes you want to quit.
Yeah, you will.
You'll sabotage yourself at other times, and you'll have to catch yourself and pick yourself back up and slap yourself on the wrist and tell yourself to stop doing that. And then you'll learn oftentimes the hard way, and you'll apply those lessons, and then you'll find other problems to work on and elevate yourself.
It's it's an interesting thing because a lot of times when people look at somebody that's got a business that's running like that, I think back like when we started the solar company, we didn't have an office, we didn't have anything. It was literally me in my bedroom working like 18 hours a day to get this thing up and going. And then, a year later, when I was doing, 7 figures a month, I would meet people and I'd be out doing stuff. And they're like, wow, that's cool. How do you have time to do it? I'm like, well, I do now. You didn't see the other,
Yeah.
you didn't see the crappy part where it wasn't fun and I was trapped doing all these things. And you have to have you got to have a path to get there. And if you don't have a path, you have to find somebody that can show you the path, or be prepared to really make some sacrifices, right? Because if you're trying to learn all that stuff on your own, it's hard to manage it all. It's really hard to manage it all. It's hard to get all the work that has to get done and also work on all things you need to improve the business. And I would argue that for most people, that's the reason they never progress. They never progress past being one-man operation. That's if they even make it to that point. A lot of people fail for that exact same reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people get limited with their growth for, of course, a number of reasons, but the biggest one being their mental game. It's limiting beliefs, it's flaws in their decision-making process, and it's a lack of realizing what is actually possible.
Yeah.
They'll use their existing circumstances to define their future environment, and it's not true. It doesn't have to be true. And if you believe it will be, then it's likely to shape out that way. If you're looking for reasons why it's not going to work out or why you can't do this or that, then you'll find ways to prove yourself right.
Oh yeah. Well, or they start and they don't look for what's actually required. One of the things that I laugh at, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, it's like we see guys all the time that, they're working for someone else. They're very good at their skill. They see their boss making all this money. And, one of the things I think is always hilarious is, we'll have techs that they collect the final check. They're like, man, this job was $6,000. This guy made $6,000 and I only made $2,000. It's like, well, first off, if you made $2,000, he by definition could have made six. So the number is already a little bit off, and we need to probably address that. But they get so caught up on that big number that they go, well, you know what? I'm great at this skill. I can do this. I can make all the money in the world. And I lovingly call this the specialist illusion, because it's this idea that just because I'm good at something, everyone in the world is going to break down my door to pay me for it. And those of us who have started businesses and those of us who have failed businesses, because I have failed quite a few. In fact, I failed more than I succeeded at before I actually succeeded at one. Yeah. Right. And so it's like you go through this process and you start to figure out like, oh my God, having a skill is not enough. But if you don't know that, you can start the business and be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah. Being able to kind of decide what to focus on and what to make your specialty can be a tough challenge for some people. Naturally people try to go in the direction of what they already have as a skill. And so they may be good at house painting. They may be good at installing gutters, or in this case, spraying cabinets. And they're really good at seeing how that might be what is super important. And though they may be right, there's also other variables to the equation that they may not be aware of. Yeah. And so I try to be transparent with my guys with a lot of that stuff. And it may not be a bad idea to have, let's say you are a team leader of sorts and you see value in building that transparency, just kind of going over all the numbers in a meeting can be a helpful thing. Give opportunities for them to ask questions or to voice their assumptions. I kind of want to pull out what is in their head if I can't figure it out. That way I can proactively address some of the concerns or potential concerns. I make it very clear how much we spend on expenses every month. it doesn't necessarily, it's not at the point where it has to all be defined. They all trust at this point that we all have a very important role to play in the business. And because I, as the business owner, have the power of multiplication, I can have the small end of the stick in, quote unquote, in a deal.
Yep.
But if I collect a bunch of sticks, then, you know, I'm going to be good in the long run, even if my individual stick is smaller, you know. So I rather pay the guys a certain way to where they feel like they're getting a good end of the deal. But the only way they're going to feel that way is if they understand what all is involved. So making it clear what your business expenses are, what the requirements of even reserving cash are. You know, just because you may be profited $4,000 on a job or even $2,000 on a job, you can't go put that money in your pocket as the business owner, because if you did, you wouldn't be a responsible business owner, because things can happen where you need liquidity. You know, just like anyone who owns a car should have enough money or some insurance involved to repair an unexpected damage or repair. You know, so does a business owner, you know. And so building transparency and letting the team understand where all the money is going can help.
Yep.
And that can help broaden their perspective. A lot of technicians or people who aren't a business owner just aren't required to know what it is like to be a business owner. So to share that can often even create the understanding that they are very happy in their position.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they know what you have to deal with on the back end with taxes and unhappy customers and potential lawsuits and budgeting and proactive planning and constantly focusing on the past, future, and present all at the same time, you know, they may be very happy just having their project that they have to focus on every week and, you know, answer to themselves.
Yeah, entrepreneurship, actually, it's not for everybody. And by being really clear with the expectations, there are some people that very quickly figure out, like, I don't want to deal with that. I know there are many business owners right now that are selling their businesses because they've recognized, like, holy crap, this is way more than I anticipated. Yeah. And it's worse if you don't have systems. I think that's a big part of it for a lot of them, right? Yeah. They don't have a tool for that, right? They're like, well, I'm good at this. And it's like the progression is usually like, all right, I've got a skill. I start my business with my skill. I'm pretty excited about it. And so, you know, they tell all of their friends and they get this huge influx of business. And then all of a sudden, all their friends know and business kind of dies off. And I've seen a lot of guys that will trudge through that for, you know, a year or two, just living hand to mouth until they finally get enough referral business to be comfortable.
Right.
But without the systems in place, without the ability to forecast, to know their numbers, their KPIs, to drive more revenue through things like marketing, you know, it is, if a hiring mistake can cost you $7,000 and the only money you have in your bank account is the $5,000 or $6,000 you just took out to pay this month's bills, hiring doesn't seem like a very good decision.
Yeah, it becomes seen as impossible.
Yeah. And in that situation, I would say it's risky. I would recommend they not hire. Right. The question would be, why do you not have your business set up in a way that, you know, you've been doing this for 12 months and you can't save up more than $5,000?
Right.
Are your expenses too high?
Yeah. Understanding the different components of the business can help you understand the need for even specialties within that business. And when you start the business and you happen to be by yourself, as they say, you're wearing multiple hats, it kind of requires at least a certain level of understanding of these different parts of the business, because if you're kind of just going at it without really analyzing what you need to do to get to where you want to be, it's obviously going to take a lot more time. It's going to cost a lot more money potentially, and it's going to discourage you to keep pushing forward. And so we obviously don't experience this much with the people that we work with because we provide that path. But one of the intentions behind this podcast is to open people's perspective enough to where they can first acknowledge they need help, and then they can know where to find that help. And then they can rely on themselves to take action on the solutions. And so being a victim of the specialty dilemma or illusion can certainly help you be good at a certain part of the business, but it's going to take some humility a little bit. A lot of times it takes a big mistake to force someone to take a step back and realize, okay, where did I go wrong and what can I do differently?
Yeah. Well, and for people that want to know that system, like I share it with everybody freely. Like we teach basically three pillars, right? We call it the CAD system. It's client acquisition, delivery, and scalable systems. And those are the three things you need. And it's the exact order that you need them in, right? Which is not a popular opinion. I've got some pushback from that. I've had people be like, well, that's not true. If you're acquiring clients, but you can't do the work, like your business is going to fail. It's like, well, yes, sure. In that sense, that's like me saying, well, hey, if you want to drive, you can't be blind. Obviously you have to have eyeballs to drive a car, but having eyeballs doesn't make you a good driver. It's a required minimum. And so like when we talk about like, it's like client acquisition is the first thing. If you're starting a business and you don't know where your clients are coming from, it's going to be an uphill battle both ways. Like it's going to be arduous. The next thing, delivery, is not just like, can you do the work? It's, do you have the systems in place to do work consistently? And do you have the systems in place to create a 5-star experience with your customers? Because these days, just doing good work's not really enough. Like, we live in the world of Google, right? If you're cantankerous, or you're grumpy, or you don't show up on time, but you do phenomenal work, like, some people are going to recommend you. But I can tell you, if I have a contractor show up late more than like twice, I'm like, hey man, I have a life and a schedule, and I'm paying you to flirt around my life and schedule. Like, just being super direct about this. So figure it out. And a lot of people, I think they don't take that as seriously. So you have to be able to deliver skill, but you also have to be able to deliver it in a 5-star customer experience. And the last thing is, once you have those two things in place, if you have enough business and people like you, you have to figure out how to set systems up that free you out of that business so you can start hiring other people. Like, that's the secret. If you want to start a business fast, you master those three things.
Yeah, for sure. And that could be a good suggestion on how to move forward from now. Taking some value from this podcast, you can take a moment to sit down and go through these different sections of your business and start to work on the different systems that could really benefit you. Do you have a system for generating customers? Do you have a system for fulfilling those customers and providing a 5-star experience? Do you have a system for growing the business or even managing the business? Right. The day-to-day things that are needing to be done just to make sure the bills are paid, the lights are on, and you have materials or whatever you need to fulfill on the service that your business provides. Really breaking that down from those three sections, those three departments of your business, and really working on creating a standardized approach to it. It's a very hard thing to do, especially for people who are not what they would describe themselves as being organized.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think we've talked about this in the past, where you can have people help you do this. And so it just becomes one of those to-do items that can be often procrastinated on, but it becomes one of the primary things holding you back from growth. Yep. And so as long as you're okay with where you're at, there's nothing wrong with this. But if you have some ambition and some motivation to grow, then you're going to have to accept the fact that it's up to you to make that happen. 100%. And, that very well may mean that you need to fight through the discomfort of putting in the hours needed to organize your business. Yep. And doing it all on paper is going to be a heck of a lot easier than doing it in person. And so if you can't get started on putting it on paper, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to do it in person, because trust me, you're not going to want to repeat yourself too often before you start getting frustrated and start blaming other people on the results, not acknowledging that it all started with you deciding to do everything from your head.
Right. Well,
tell people the same thing over and over.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing everything from your head anyways, like, humans have incredibly bad memories, myself included. I had a beautiful idea for a topic for the podcast last night, and I was so excited about it. And then I didn't have my notebook with me, and we were about to watch this Marvel movie that we were excited about. And sure enough, I have no idea what that idea is. It's gone. And that was like a small little thing. but it's funny because that first step that you're talking about, and I think where people get stuck, the whole reason the specialist delusion exists is because of what we call unconscious incompetence, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not knowing what you're not good at, right? You just don't know what you don't know. And so when you start writing all this stuff down, and this happens at every stage of the business, when you're trying to go from 6 figures, 7 figures, there's different systems, and you write all stuff down and you're like, holy crap. Yeah. I actually have no idea how to hire a full-time manager to run this entire operation for me. Okay. So we've moved from, unconscious incompetence. I didn't know that I didn't know that, to now we have conscious incompetence. I know that I don't know that. And it's actually a really good step, because if you can just say, hey, I have no idea how to do this, you now accept that you're the bottleneck and you can solve it. You can go pay somebody to teach you. You can buy a book on Amazon. Like, I mean, it doesn't always have to be expensive. I love reading books. I know that I don't get as much from that as I do the mentorships that I've paid for, but I still use it all the time. It's a great thing. You have to learn what you don't know so you can actually learn how to know that.
Yeah. So that's something that I encourage everyone to take away from this podcast is break your business down, because you're going to start uncovering things that you weren't aware of.
Yeah.
And in the hodgepodge of challenges that might be right in front of you, really untangling those is going to be the first step to approaching each one individually, because thinking about it all at once is not going to motivate you to tackle the problem.
No.
So
it's like eating.
Break the business down. If you're a specialist in one part of the business, that's great. That's one less person that you have to prioritize on recruiting. But if you start to realize like, hey, I don't have the level of interest or commitment or experience in customer acquisition, which can be described as sales and marketing and advertising. If that's not your cup of tea, you're going to need to find someone that can lead that part of your business for you. It doesn't necessarily need to be an employee. There's plenty of people whose entire business is built around helping people with that specific problem.
Yep.
And so, sales and customer acquisition, you're going to need a specialty with that. You're going to need a specialty with fulfilling on the service that your business provides that may or may not be you. You're going to need a specialty of managing the business and growing the business. And if you're not an organized person, it's going to be challenging to do that, but it needs to be accepted that that is a requirement for not only sustainable, but a thriving business. And
yeah.
so,
I mean, maybe this isn't a popular opinion, but dude, if your excuse for why you're not growing your business is that you're not an organized person, I would say get your shit together and get organized. Like that's
there's obvious benefits to changing your personality and your reactions, and
like I was born
being more productive and organized.
There's nothing I can do. It's like it's a state. It's not a disability,
Right. You choosing to make that a problem is the underlying issue.
Yeah.
If you think you needing to be an organized person is what's preventing you from moving forward, that's instantly going to become true because that's what you're thinking. But if you realize that you can receive help, or you can look up a template, or you can receive guidance or support on that specific organizing task, then you'll solve the problem and on to the next one.
Yep.
But for sure, making you not being an organized person as an excuse is just, passing on the hot potato.
Yeah. It's lazy, but I get, especially for somebody that's starting, somebody that's going through that challenge of wearing all the hats. I do understand how it can be easy to be disorganized when you have to try and track everything. And it's especially bad if you're trying to do everything in your head. But
yeah,
none of the things, and I think one of the things that's tough sometimes when we're talking to tradespeople or we're talking about this stuff, none of the stuff that we're talking about is I think revolutionary, right? It may be the first time somebody's hearing it, but we didn't carve out the path of being organized. We didn't carve out the path of this is what client acquisition is. We've simplified those processes for our students, but all of that stuff already exists. So when I see somebody that has no idea what they're doing, just working 90 hours a week to struggle through it, it's like, dude, you're over here cutting a path through the forest when 10 feet that way, there's a freaking highway, you know? It's like, unless you're hiding from something, I don't know why you wouldn't just go walk along the road.
It's very near impossible that there's going to be a problem that you're confronted with that has not already been solved, even by someone in your same industry.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble even seeing parallels and different ways where other industries can apply to yours, there's likely, you're just not looking deep enough, because there's likely someone in your specific industry dealing with your specific problem that has vocalized or published their solution in some way or another. And so looking for that person or that resource then becomes the to-do item. It doesn't necessarily become figuring out a new revolutionary way to solve, you know, people's inadequacies or your systems. It's learning to define the problem clear enough so that you know how to search for the solution.
Yeah. Well, didn't we talk about that on the last podcast? You know, the NASA built a $20 million pen and Russia used a pencil. Right.
I know I know we brought it up. I'm not sure if we were recording or not, but yeah, exactly. Knowing what problem to solve can save you a ton of time and money. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then prioritize your problems. And this is something I hope we talk about every single time. It's being able to step back and prioritize, because like as a business owner, you are going to have a lot of things that are urgent, things that feel like they have to get done right now. But at the end of the day, they're not the actual priority. They're not the thing that you're chasing your business. And if you don't form that habit of sitting down and focusing on those things, it's just a different version of the rat race, man. You know, if you're not developing systems to get you out of it, it's still you working your fingers to the bone.
You still have a job, and it almost is worse because you can't blame anything else on on other people.
Yeah.
The unhappiness and dissatisfaction you're experiencing is clearly your fault.
Yeah.
If you own the business. And so, you know, it could even be a valuable offering to let people know that they could email us. You know, if you're someone that is working in your business and you're not quite sure what your next step is, shoot us over an email at support@cabinetstartup.com. You know, sometimes an extra set of eyes can help point out some of these things that may not be as hidden as you believe.
Yep.
And so if you're just looking for a little bit of clarity, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your business, where you're currently at, what you're trying to do, more importantly. And often a solution can be pretty clearly identified, and then just go after solving that specific problem, and you'll get a little closer to your goal.
Yep. Baby steps.
Yeah. And so that episode was a little bit in different areas, but I'm sure people got something out of it. As always, guys, you know, if you have any suggestions or advice on how we can make this a little bit better for you, feel free to shoot us over an email, same place, support@cabinetstartup.com. We'll talk to you guys same place, same time next week.
Also,
hope you guys, yeah, go ahead.
We're now on Spotify and all the streaming podcasts. If you've been watching us on YouTube and you want to check this out on the go, you can now check us out on every streaming podcast platform.
Yeah. So if you don't enjoy watching our faces, I don't blame you. Spotify, iTunes, whatever your podcasts
radio.
What's that?
Said I got a face for radio.
Yeah. And so a lot easier to watch in your car if you don't want to keep your screen on or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll catch you next week. Bye.
Everybody.